I'd like to call the Town of Clinton Planning Board virtual meeting to order at 7:30 on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1 issued on March 12, 2020, suspending the open meetings law and emergency state and federal bans on large meetings or gatherings, the Town of Clinton Planning Board scheduled for June 16th, July 7th, 2020 will be held electronically via Zoom instead of a public meeting open to the public to attend in person. Members of the public may view the board meeting as it is live streamed on YouTube. www.townofclinton.com/government/planning-board-video/ a transcript of the meeting will be posted on the town website at a later date. Okay, the first item on the agenda is Aldridge and Dye variance, 9 Partners Road. Is anybody here for that?
And there's an Allison Dye.
That should be the one.
Let's find out if any of these other people are with them. Rick, Paul's iPad.
Okay, who do we have for this applicant online here?
Your sound's not on.
They're muted. They have to unmute.
Okay, here we are.
Yep, here we are.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Okay, this is a variance, and it's step 1 in a 2-step process. The planning board, which you're in front of right now,
Yeah.
on screen, will make a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. It will be a yay, nay, or a neutral recommendation, and the zoning board of appeals will then make the final decision on the variance. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
Sounds
so
good.
if you can briefly mention your name and let us know exactly what you're doing, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. My name is Allison Dye,
and I'm Allison Aldrich.
and we have a small deck out back that we're going to replace because the boards are rotting, and it's not really big enough to put a table and chairs. We've had chairs out there, but it's not big enough to put a table. So what we're proposing is to extend the current deck out about 2 feet, I think it is, and then extend it forward a bit to about the same amount of distance.
Okay. Jerry? You there, Jerry?
You lost him.
Mr. Dolan, are you here?
Doesn't look like it.
Jerry's muted. Jerry, unmute yourself.
No.
Oh, shit.
There he is.
There he is.
Okay, good. Okay,
Okay,
all right, Jerry, do you have anything on this application?
yes, this is a fairly straightforward variance, and I have put together a resolution associated with it, which should cover all the points or questions that anybody might have, and I'd like to go ahead and read the resolution.
Okay, I have no objection to that. Anybody else?
Any questions? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board approve the following resolution. Be it resolved, the planning board is making a positive recommendation for the approval of the Town of Clinton to the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals on the requested area variance to section 250 attachment 2 to enlarge an existing deck. Property owned by Allison Aldrich and Allison Dye, located at 2109 Partners Road, tax code number ending in 871646, is in the AR3A zone. Whereas the applicant wishes to enlarge an existing deteriorating deck, 12 foot by 8 foot, to the size of 14 feet by 12 feet, with a variance requiring a side yard setback from the required 50 feet to 35 feet. This is the 2-acre parcel located in the AR3A zone. It's not in an ag district. It should be noted that an area variance is a type 2 action under seeker and requires no further action. The site contains a pond, but the 100-foot buffer is not intruded upon by the enlargement of the deck. An undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to nearby properties. The requested variance is substantial. There will be no potential adverse effect on, or impact on the physical or environmental condition in the neighborhood. The enlarged deck repairs the existing one and is one not visible from the road or from adjacent homes. The alleged difficulty is self-created. The application fee has been paid. Per the zoning enforcement officer, there are no known violations associated with the property. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Clinton Planning Board provides a positive recommendation for approval to the Town Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay,
Second,
second, discussion. Okay. As we vote, please just mention your name as you're voting, okay? All in favor? Art, aye.
Jerry, aye.
Jack, I.
Justin, I.
All aye.
Okay, so moved. Okay, so folks, you'll go to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a positive recommendation from the Planning Board.
Okay,
Thank you very
lovely.
much.
Thanks for your time on this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all. And Arlene will give you the date when you need to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, okay?
Okay, wonderful.
Take care now.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. And let's see. All right, we're gonna do Coyote Ridge next. So Fred, you can let in Mark Graminsky.
Yeah, he's the.
Okay, is Mark in?
He's muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Lac Coyote Ridge lot sketch plan discussion. Mark, you want to briefly tell us what's going on here?
Sure. What I don't see is a copy of my site plan that I prepared. This is a survey from Marie Welsh
Hold
that I'm
on.
looking at right now.
Is this the one? No.
No, that's not it,
Hold
Arlene.
on. I got so much stuff with me. Explain for now. I have so much stuff on in here. I gotta find
So the purpose of this discussion with the board is basically confirmation of setbacks. And in this case, because of the location of this parcel, which has a right of way over Coyote Ridge Road, and it's private road. My interpretation of the lot configuration is that the front lot
Which
is.
one you want? This?
So those are the filed maps, Arlene, and I included those for reference, but there's also a copy of my site plan.
Okay, hold on, let me find it. Not that one.
Well, while these are up,
Okay, sorry.
that's okay. While those are up, what I was through the previous filed maps, I was trying to demonstrate that all the adjoining lots they're flag lots that have frontage on New York State Route 9G. The lot in which I'm working on for Lack and Winokur is actually a landlocked piece, and it has a right of way to Route 9G. And so it's merely a just discussion with this board and confirmation of what I feel is the front yard. It matters with regard to placement of the house, and it's fairly critical based on the existing constraints of the property. There's some rock outcroppings and limited area for development. So my clients. So you don't have that one. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. That's it, right there. So what I've gone ahead and on this site plan is just to define the various yard setbacks. And so once again, my interpretation is that the front yard is to New York State Route 9G, which is to the west, not to the, if you look on the south where you actually gain access, that's a right of way over Coyote Ridge Road. That's it. Just I spoke to Arlene about this and felt it was needed to go to the planning board for the board's consideration and determination of where the actual yards are and the associated setbacks.
Can I just give a briefing right away? Years ago, I think 10 years ago, whatever, we combined the lots for Bot Ball. I don't know if everybody remembers. This is it.
Yeah.
The Bot Ball.
Yeah, and I actually, Arlene, one of those filed maps that I attached with my submission is a copy of that, of where there were multiple lots and they were combined into this single lot. And then on another file map that I've attached and provided the board, I sketched in where this parcel was yeah, if you go down, yeah, right there. So there's, and if you page down a little bit more, Arlene, yeah, there we go. If you look on the bottom of the page, I sketched in where those multiple lots were, yeah, down, page down a little bit, down, or yes. Yeah, there it is, right there. Right between where it says filed 4/2604 and file map 8165A. I darkened in where this particular parcel is. So, there it is. And then, and so that's attached to the file, one of the file maps that shows how those lots further to the west were created. And so then they all have, their frontage is to Route 9G. Their access is via a private road. In all the lots in this subdivision, there's an easement and maintenance agreement for for Coyote Ridge Road, a private road, including this parcel that that's owned by Lack and Winokur.
Mark, did you talk to the building inspector at all on this?
I did not. My conversation has been with Arlene.
No, we had a conversation with the zoning guy and actually with the building inspector going back to with Lou. That was before you, Mark, before you were hired. We were talking to another architect and he was confused where's the access because looking at it, we didn't know about the right of way. Looking at it, there's no access. So
It's a landlocked piece with a right of way to 9G.
that was really the issue.
So, hey, Mark, it's Paul Thomas.
Hey, Paul.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I had the same question as Art. I think, just to confirm, so there's not now, and there's not going to be any application to the planning board for anything, right? Everything's created. It's an existing lot. And you don't need any other approvals from the planning board to go ahead with building a house there, right?
Correct. It's only, and it's just not with the town, other than a building permit with the town and
Okay.
Approval from the health department for water and sewer. Paul.
So my sort of initial take on this was, the board can give opinions, but this is really a matter for the zoning administrator and or the and if you don't like what he says, the ZBA, but I don't think anything the planning board says here is going to be binding, as an interpretation or anything else.
Okay.
We can't just give an opinion. I think the zoning administrator would be the first stop. And just, I don't disagree with the way you've laid it out. And I think there's a couple ways of looking at it, just looking at the zoning law, because this one is definitely confusing. And, but in 250-23, where it's talking about measuring front yard setback, it's measured from the nearest point on the center line of the road or right of way. So it doesn't really give us a lot of help in this particular case. But if you just, and I was just sort of perusing through, so in terms of corner lots, which I don't know if this is even a corner lot, but there's some language in 250-21 about corner lots. But what's interesting in 250-21 that I think kind of, for me, dictates what we should do here is it just at the end, it says the owner in consultation with the zoning administrator shall establish which of the remaining yards shall be the required side yard and the required rear yard, which implies to me the zoning administrator has kind of authority to rule on something like this.
Okay. Arlene, can you help me out? Because I thought that already has that occurred, Arlene?
Well, that's what they want to get. They want you to go get the opinion of the planning board because the planning board approves this lot.
No.
Yes, you combine this lot.
They approved the lot, but I'm just saying, I don't think the planning board, if there's an old drawing somewhere that indicates,
This is the approved lot. As you could see, there is signed by Mike McCormack.
No, I'm not disputing that. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Arlene, if you page down one more page, right there, all it was this was a lot line. This was a combination. It was combining
Combine the lot.
Combining all the parcels. That's all the planning board did was combine all those parcels.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there is still a question when the lot was all combined. So the access, which is the right of way, is we really use that access to use all the way out.
So I get it, Paul. So it's the
The ZO has to make a determination.
Well,
Art, you.
This is Art. I agree with Paul. I think now that Mark has done the sketch of this and has laid it out, I think that the /building inspector ZEO has to take a look at this and say, yeah, this is fine. No, you have to move it here. Because that's really not in our bailiwick, is to do this until he takes a look at it. I
Okay.
think that's your next step, Mark. And after that, I don't see what we have to do with this. After, if he gives.
I agree, Art. I think, it's just a building permit application with the town.
Yeah,
Just a building permit. That's all you need.
Yeah, and I guess, right, and if you get denied, then you could go to the ZBA, I guess.
right.
And yeah, so that would be the sequence.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome, Mark. Thank you.
Great to
for
see you, Mark.
all the info.
Likewise. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Pearl lot line. Fred, can we let whoever is in for that?
Rick.
Rick Vidal.
Yeah.
Okay, are they in?
Not yet.
Okay.
No audio, and they're not joining audio, so I don't know what to do.
Can you email them or call them or something?
I'm texting him.
Oh, okay. See how behind the times I am.
Okay, now his audio might be working, but it's still muted. There we go. Oh, you should be able to hear him now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Okay, okay, this item on the agenda is for Pearl, a lot line adjustment, and whomever is here for this application, please let us know your name and briefly tell us what you're doing.
Sure. Hi, I'm Rick Vidal. I live at 430 Schultz Hill Road. It's the property with the lake right behind these three parcels that are under discussion. The current owners, as you mentioned, Leslie Pearl and Matthew Vim of these three parcels here, do not live in the area, but we've maintained a relationship in the 2.5 years that we've owned the property next door. The owner now, Leslie, is interested in selling the parcels and approached me. And I said that I would be interested in the 1.67 acre parcel, which is the rightmost of these three parcels, but only under the condition that it includes a lot line adjustment described here, where we would add additional land to that 1.67 acres, including the stream and the inflow and outflow to the pond, which feeds our larger waterfall and has not been well maintained since we purchased our property. So having that perspective and being able to maintain that stream was important to us. And so the owner kindly agreed, and we moved forward with the survey and consent for me to represent his interests in this meeting.
Okay. We have the letter of consent on file?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, okay. Okay, Justin, you're on.
Sure. So these are three lots. They're in an AR5, district, so they're all substandard lots. And what they're essentially going to do here is take this red parcel on the left and kind of cut it in half. And so the lower part will be combined with the yellow one, and the upper part will be combined with the green one. And they'll end up with two lots, both of which will be still substandard, but not more substandard than they are now. I believe the new lot, one is going to be 3.65 and one is 3.92. And just for everyone's reference, in case you're not familiar, there's a house right now on the 1.67. There's another house on the 2.26. And then the third parcel that's being split is vacant land. So you're essentially enlarging two substandard lots by using this third lot. I mean, I had this conversation with Paul yesterday as to whether you need an area variance because the two lots will be substandard. And we were talking about one of our other applications. I'm happy to open it up to the board for a discussion, but just kind of want to lay out, I guess, the two ways of thinking about this based on the language in the statute. So we're authorized to do lot line alterations unless we are creating a substandard lot or rendering any lot more substandard than it may be. And the philosophical debate, I guess, I had with Paul is, what does it mean to create a lot? Is any lot that's not exactly one of these three now the creation of a new lot, or is there something else you can be doing, right? Can you expand a lot so that you wouldn't be creating one, and as long as you're not rendering it smaller, right, it should be okay without an area variance. I think logically and kind of consistent with the code that making a substandard lot larger shouldn't need extra steps, but if people feel differently and they do want to do the extra steps in the area variance, we can do that as well. It's just not clear to me from the code how to proceed.
Okay, do we have any opinions on this? I think Justin laid it out pretty easily. So if anybody has opinions on it, now's the time.
Sorry, and one more fact. So you also can't create a nonconformity. Right now, lots 1 and 2 do not meet the 400-foot width requirement. Post combination, both remaining lots will meet that requirement. They'll be 500 and 700 feet. So we're not creating any nonconformities, and we're actually curing 2 nonconformities.
That makes sense.
I don't see where there's any value added to requiring the area variance, since everything's moving in a positive direction.
This is Art. I kind of go along with what Jerry just said. We're moving in a positive direction, and we're making the situation a lot better than it was before. I'm not crazy about doing another step here, but that's going to be up to the board. If they feel we should get a variance, then I'm fine with that too. But I like the idea that we're improving this situation a great deal. Paul?
Can I just say something? But in a variance, there's got to be no alternative. There is another option, which is combining these two lots, which will create a conforming lot. Still give you 2 lots. A variance, you cannot have an alternative action. You have the option here to combine lot 1 and 2 to make it 5 acres. Just the 5 acre plan.
The purpose of the combination, Arlene, right, is to get the beginning and the end of the stream, which only happens through the green parcel and across the red parcel, right? So, I mean, so then you're having a debate about, like, you know, an alternative to what, right? If you just want to combine land, yes, there's an alternative. If you want to get the stream from start to end so that they can feed the waterfall, then, you know, that alternative doesn't work.
So which is their hardship on their part. So which is
correct.
The hardship to get the variance. They could try.
Arlene, that's a good point. So I think when Justin and I were talking, we talked about Maple Lane, which was a few months ago. Similar, not identical situation. You know, you remember that one? It was two strange,
right here, yeah.
Yeah, two strange lots, and they were combined. They were a lot line that made one more conforming and one less conforming. And we said, why can't you just combine them? And anyway, we ultimately said they needed an area variance because the ultimate result would be the creation of 2 substandard lots.
That's right.
And I don't think we had we gave a neutral recommendation,
And they
But-
got the variance, they received the variance.
and they got their variance. I would just say, I don't have any problem with this
Oh, we
proposal.
just have to lay it out on the
At all.
table that, you know, there is an alternative. We have to still mention it, that.
Okay, yeah, I don't, on the substance of it, I don't have any problem with this at all. I just, in terms of the process and the precedent, you know, my view, we did that only 2 or 3 months ago, Maple Lane. I don't know that we can say here, it's a different case. I mean, it's a little different, but it's kind of the same principle for me. That's just my view. I think they would probably get the variance, given that they are making the situation better. And we could give a recommendation. I'm just throwing this out. We could give a recommendation tonight, and they go later in July, and then they wouldn't lose a ton of time. So I don't know. That's my view.
I mean, the only difference, I know, and Paul and I talked about this with the other one, is that you are having one lot get more substandard and one was less substandard, right? And here, when both are becoming better, to me, that is a difference in the statute, is that you're not allowed to make one more substandard than it already is without a variance. And so I think we are right to have to go get the variance in that case. And any time any lot's becoming more substandard.
And
Yeah,
the argument here is you have 3 non-conforming lots and you're reducing the number of the non-conformity.
Yeah, I guess the question is, some of these issues go to the merits, which, you know, the merits are good, or, you know, this is a good proposal. It's just, there's the other side of it, Justin, you're creating the substandard, you know, whatever the provision says that you can't create a substandard lot or render one more substandard. So we'd be ignoring the first half of that because we're creating 2 substandard lots.
Well, that goes back to my question on what does it mean to create a lot, right? If you have 1 lot and now there's 2, you've created a lot. If you have 3 and now you have 2, have you created 2 lots or eliminated a lot? Right? Like, what does it mean to create a lot? I don't know. Right? If any lot, right, that's not one of these 3 lots is the creation of a lot, then there's no need for the second part of the sentence, which says, right, if you're creating a lot or rendering it more substandard. You know.
What does anybody else think? I mean, I defer to the majority.
I think technically, this is Art, I think technically what Paul is saying is logical, that we would be making an exception here. However, in real time, it doesn't make sense to add another step, in my opinion. So I can go either way on this one. You know, like we are not. I kind of agree that we're not creating a more substandard lot. We're really getting rid of a lot and making 2 substandard lots.
I agree with that. You know, you have to look at the purpose sometimes, and we are improving the situation here. I don't know that it would be a great hardship to get the variance. I think they get it in a heartbeat, but I think that doing this does, you know, go in the right direction.
Okay. Justin, do you have a resolution, and then we can discuss and vote on it, and we'll see where we go.
Sure, I have a resolution for a lot line adjustment.
Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
You're gonna do the lot line or you're gonna do the variance? Are we gonna need the variance?
No. We're gonna listen to Justin's resolution, and then we will discuss and vote on that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll see where we go. Okay?
Okay. Whereas the Town of Clinton Planning Board has received an application for lot line adjustment from Leslie Pearl and Matthew Vinn for the purpose of combining 3 parcels of land on Schultz Hill Road, tax ID the 2.26 acres, lot 1, tax ID 1.6 acres, lot 2, tax ID 3.64 acres, lot 3, into a 3.92 acre lot, lot A, and 3.64 acre lot, lot B, as shown on the lot line adjustment plan prepared by Spencer Hall. And whereas all of the parcels of land are located in the AR5 zoning district, and whereas the parcels are located within 500 feet of an agricultural district containing working farms, and whereas applicants have not been granted a special permit, site plan approval, variance, or other permit that would be void as a result of this action. And whereas the planning board has determined that a lot line adjustment is a type 2 action under SECRA and no further SECRA review is required. And then I want to add in, whereas lots 1, 2, and 3 are non-conforming, and the proposal will reduce the number of non-conforming lots from 3 to 2. Although the planning board notes that by combining lots 1 and 3, they could create a conforming lot. And whereas after review of the application and the plan, the planning board has determined the proposed action is in compliance with the requirements of the town zoning law and town master plan, whereas there are no known zoning violations on the parcels. Therefore, be it resolved, the planning board hereby grants the application for lot line adjustment, provided the following conditions are met. 1, payment of all applicable fees. 2, submission of a final lot line adjustment plat, including a Mylar certified by a surveyor or engineer licensed in the state of New York that meets the requirements set forth in 206-54 of the regulations.
Second, Jack.
Discussion?
Go ahead.
No discussion. Okay. We'll vote on this. All in favor? Art, aye.
Dory, aye.
Jack, aye.
Justin, aye.
Paul, no.
Wait, Paul, no?
Yeah. I think it needs a variance, but I don't have a problem with the proposal at all.
Okay. So it's so moved.
Could I ask one question, just purely for my own curiosity before Mr. Vidal leaves? Is one of these 3 parcels that relatively new house with a pond in front of it that's been unoccupied for 1,000 years?
Yes, the middle parcel is the house that was constructed 10 years ago by Leslie Pearl. It's not fully constructed, and it's been empty for 10 years, approximately.
Do you know what's going on? Or they're just, working away at it?
I do not. Yeah. I do not.
Okay. No big deal. I just drive by it all the time, and I'm idly curious. That's all.
Yeah.
It's for sale, Jack, if you want it.
No, I got more than enough. Thank you.
Okay. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Oh, hold on a second.
Oh,
And, you did the lot line, right? So that needs to be filed to the county. So we need, tell Spence, he's gonna do a Mylar. And then it needs
yes.
to be signed and then, gotta be filed to the county.
Yes. Spencer already produced the Mylar map. Leslie and Matthew already signed it and mailed it back to me. So now, Arlene, do I just drop it off at the office for you?
Yeah, I have a Dropbox right outside. All right.
Perfect. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, next, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the Weedman site plan and special permit. Do we have somebody in the audience
I have a Bob. I have Paul's iPad. I have Bob Walsh and
The
Mark
three of
W.
them,
Which ones?
all of them.
Okay.
Hello,
Hello? Okay,
this is Paul. This is Paul Gates. I'm the architect.
okay, are you authorized to speak on behalf of the owners?
Yes,
The
I
owner
am.
is here too.
Yeah, and he is. This is Mark Weidman. Hello.
Okay, thank you. All right, would you explain briefly what you're intending on doing here?
Yes, there's an existing barn, which you see in the center of the screen, near the pool. That's the garage there. That's the pool, and then that's a pool equipment shed. That's the barn. It's one of the, we think it was the original barn structure in the property because the beams are all hand hewn. It had been used as a barn for many years, storage shed and a shop. That function is no longer needed by the client. And there was a tractor shed attached to the side of it that's being relocated to elsewhere on the property. And the intention is to convert the barn to a multi-use structure, primarily to be used as a home office, and also, there you go. So if you see like number 2 is where the structure in question is. The main house is number 6 on this plan. And the pool is number 4. So the intention is to convert this barn to a usable space for the people on using the land. It's no longer a working farm, so they want to use it for occasional social activities and a home office when there are lots of kids in the main house and the client needs to work remotely. So that's the purpose of the project.
Jack?
Sure. Let me see, I think this is fine, but we have a zoning code that we're all bound to follow. And
Right.
I think there are a number of hoops we have to go through on this one. First, I went by there yesterday to look at it, and I saw that the barn that's going to be expanded has been taken down. There's a foundation there. And I was told that the barn wood has been preserved and it's going to be restored. Is that right?
Well, the original barn just had a rubble stone foundation, and the barn had been kind of chopped up over the years. Most of the structure, especially the roof structure, is intact. And it's actually quite unique. It's all hand hewn and the rafters taper and so forth. We discovered as we were dismantling it that there were many of the posts had insect damage to them. They were structurally unsound. And so Bob Walsh, the contractor, sought out replacements for those particular elements. In Pennsylvania, he managed to find a place that was able to replicate what was there with old hand-hewn lumber. So where we needed to do it, we replaced them, but we're using all the lumber that was still intact. The building's being rebuilt exactly as it was before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful if the narrative that's been submitted was expanded to spell that out, since it was kind of disconcerting not to see a building there that was supposed to be renovated.
They actually had reconstructed the roof structure over by the garage, number 5 on the plan. It was sitting there. You may not have seen it.
Yeah.
But it's sitting there. They mocked it back up to make sure all the pieces fit together properly and so forth.
I think this is an improvement. I think it helps the application if it's spelled out just a little bit, a couple lines. Second, the narrative says the project is to construct a 58 square foot, 3/4 bathroom and so forth. But the drawings say that there's a 299 square foot addition. I'm assuming the drawing is correct and that there is an addition here.
Well, can you go back to the actual plan drawing? Is it possible?
That's what I'm looking at. The second.
I'm sorry, on my screen, I just see a site plan.
Okay, I'm looking at the second page of what was submitted that's got a note for floor areas, and that has, you know,
So
2A,
basically,
2B.
This one? No?
no,
no.
that's the septic.
Hold on, I have so much drawings.
Should be a demolition plan and a construction plan.
Okay, hold on.
I mean, basically, there's a main barn building that's about 18 by 40 feet. And then there was a tractor shed that was, there you go. So that's the construction plan.
Okay.
And you see the rectangle in the bottom is the old barn that's being rebuilt.
Right.
The narrower rectangle on the top is the shed structure that's being built onto it, which is replacing. We took down the old tractor shed that had been in that same location, and we are replacing it with a smaller shed that will be used for storage, mechanical, and bathroom use, so that the main barn doesn't get encroached by those other functions. That's the purpose.
Yeah, I understand, but as I read the notes on the second page of the proposal of the drawings, it says floor areas, existing barn, 752 feet, addition,
Right.
299 feet, right? So we're expanding the size of the building.
Well, like I said, we're taking away the old tractor shed, which was an open structure, but it was actually larger than the 298 square foot. There's a demolition plan that shows the old tractor shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, did you submit a demolition permit before you took it down?
Yeah. I mean, all this was, before we even started the project in the design phase, I walked through everything with the building inspector.
Okay,
Sat down, I showed him exactly what we were doing.
Because we require a permit for demolition that goes through the planning board, and I didn't see that here.
Which one was demolished? I don't think we gave a demolition, because Mark, all demolition goes before the planning board. So I never seen any demolition permit.
Well, we were just following the instructions that I was given by the building inspector. So on our demolition plan, we talk about, dismantling and reassembling it, because it's a barn that can be, it was much simpler to, in order to get the foundations built, we would have had to either jack up the old rickety structure and shore it all together, or just take it apart and put it back together again.
I'm not saying
that
doesn't make perfect sense. All I'm saying is we require permits.
Okay.
And I didn't see it. But
yeah, if you demolish it totally, you need the demolition to go before the planning board. But if you just what do you call this, repair or remove part of it, then normally building inspector doesn't send it to the planning board.
That distinction wasn't made clear to me, and Also, it was a bit of a work in process. We had to sort of start removing things to see what was behind, you know.
It seems to me that's a solvable problem. This has to come back before us anyway after a public hearing, and there may be a bit of paperwork involved. I'm just raising.
Okay.
In the same sense, I noticed that part of the demolition plan is to tear down a greenhouse. And when I went by yesterday, it seems you could tear it down by leaning against it.
Yes, that's true.
Odd, but before you do it, submit the permit request is all I'm suggesting.
Okay.
Okay, next, the total area of the building, as it shows on the plan, will be 1,051 square feet.
Right.
This is, as I understand it, being submitted to us as a request for an accessory dwelling unit, which is a thing we have. Is that right, Arlene?
No, that's correct. We're not intending to use it as a dwelling unit.
Yeah, but you're putting a septic, you're putting a bathroom, and only.
There's no cooking facilities. We're not putting in any cooking facilities.
It
It's not
doesn't
really,
matter. Our code, you're not allowed. The only structure you're allowed to put a septic are the pool house. That's why that's why it requires a special permit.
okay, it wasn't clear to me from reading the code. The code for dwelling units, it says you need to have cooking facilities. We don't want to use this. The client doesn't want to use this as a separate dwelling unit.
And
They have no intention of using it that way.
So my question, I guess, for the group then is, how do we characterize, just so we're clear, the consequence is if it's an accessory dwelling unit that is more than 1,000 square feet, then it requires a variance.
Okay.
I get the variance in a heartbeat, frankly.
There's already an accessory dwelling unit on the property, though. There's already one accessory dwelling unit on the property up by the road. There's a caretaker's house.
Right.
That's already there.
You can't do.
Yeah, we don't want.
And you don't want to, I understand. It's just.
Yeah.
So how do we characterize this?
So the only thing I was going to say, you're absolutely right. It's not in the code. There have been interpretations over the years by ZEOs and the ZBA that if you put water and/or septic into an outbuilding, it requires a permit as if it's an accessory dwelling.
I see. Okay.
And so it's an interpretation of the code. You're absolutely right. It's not in the code. And, this may be, people have different views on that interpretation. So it may be an issue where the board can discuss it and decide, but it may be an issue where you go to the ZEO, see if the current one has the same interpretation, and/or the ZBA and get an interpretation. But otherwise, there's a problem because as you pointed out, there's already an accessory dwelling and you can't have two.
Right, but this building would be an accessory structure, right? That would be used that would have other uses. That would be, another reason for having the bathroom there is that it's near the pool. It's remote from the house. The pool's remote from the house. So it's kind of intended to be used in several different ways.
Do you already
but
have
not
a
as a
pool
dwelling.
house?
Could it be a pool? Yeah, could it be a pool house?
Pool house, because the pool house, you're allowed to have water.
Okay.
We could call it a pool house for sure.
Hey, we solved the problem.
It's just, yeah.
You don't have a pool house yet.
It really will be used that way.
Is there going to be a toilet in it? Because
You're not allowed to have a
because the
toilet.
narrative doesn't mention that, but that seemed to be a mistake to me. That's all.
We're putting a septic in.
Toilet and a shower and a sink. Yeah.
Is there a limit on the number of outbuildings that we can have? Because this property has a number of outbuildings on it already.
Right.
I think the work farm, right, Mark? You have a work farm exemption. Working farm. Do you have an ag exemption?
I think so. And we're coming out of this with, I believe, net zero change in the number of outbuildings because we're demolishing the gatehouse, hi everyone, thank you for your
Greenhouse.
time. the greenhouse, which, as you point out, Mr. Auspitz, could be knocked over with a push. It's in any case. So yes, so if you want to call a pool house, that is the only structure next to the pool is basically just there for the for the
Equipment. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're calling it a pool house, we don't have to worry about the 1,000-foot limitation. We don't have to worry about whether a home office is a home occupation that raises all kinds of issues about what you can do in it. It solves a lot of problems for us. So can we agree that we got a little piece of paper that says we're building a pool house?
Sure. Definitely.
Well, we thought you did that, but the other thing it solves is the pool and the pool house are considered one structure, so you're actually reducing your number of structures,
which is good.
That's helpful.
So it's not a bad.
But I thought you
We
are
should
a
have
farm
talked to you earlier.
exception, and you are
Yes,
accepted
is the-
with the number of structures if you're a farm.
Okay.
So, Arlene, does this have to then still go for a public hearing and all of that?
No, you just make a determination that it's a pool house, so it's just a building permit.
Okay, well, in that case, I will give you tomorrow, Arlene, an eloquent written resolution that I will have to completely rewrite, but it'll be gorgeous. For the moment,
Jack, can I interrupt you for a second? From what we've been discussing here, and I agree with everything, the pool house and so on and so forth, the information that we have from the applicant, I think we need a little more defined statement. I'd like to know that there's not going to be heat in here, or exactly what is going in the pool house.
There is heating. There's a radiant floor. It's intended to be used for all year long. When the pool is not being used, they're still going to be able to sit in front of the fire. We're putting a fireplace in. It's going to be people, in the winter would be able to sit around and have a drink by the fireplace. That was part of the intention too. So, I mean,
all spelled out.
Well, it wasn't. There was never any question about it to me, so it was never spelled out. Nobody asked me to.
Well, we'll spell it out.
We
spell
don't
it out.
mind. Whatever you
you
like.
can get a narrative statement from you, one page, just spelling out the pool house, its other functions, that it's not an accessory dwelling unit, and not intended to be, that it's going to be used for a variety of purposes, including partially a home office, partially a recreation thing, or whatever you want to say. Give us that, and then I think maybe we have to kick it over to our next meeting in 2 weeks and vote on it then.
Okay.
Can I just say something? I know this property always has like an event. We issued a couple of tent, whatever, parties permit for this. Why don't you legalize this dwelling to what you really are intending to use? So this way, can we make it like an accessory dwelling pool, or totally not?
No, if we call it an accessory dwelling, it really does raise variance issues, occupation, issues, all kinds of problems. I would love for this not to be an accessory dwelling.
My reason is because they normally have parties and events in there. So
No, they don't. Not that
No, we don't.
No,
I'm just saying we received a couple of permits for 10.
No, but if I may, we had a bar mitzvah. We did it in our lawn.
Personal party then.
Yeah,
totally. No. We had a bar mitzvah. We've only got 2 kids. There's one coming, hopefully. It was out on the lawn, and there was a permit because we had to build a structure because of my rain, and therefore the service had to be somewhere else. All very complicated. The point is, we do not have parties. This is purely my house. This is my man cave. That's all we're doing here.
yeah. We knew the prior owners. I know who the current owner is. It's not going to be used for commercial events. I'm reasonably confident.
Definitely not.
So who should this letter be addressed to? And how do we, and who should I send it to?
I think you send it to Arlene.
Address it to the planning board.
Great.
Yeah,
Yep. Planning board, send it to Arlene. Okay.
So they have to go back before the agenda, Jack?
I'm happy to do a quick oral resolution now and supplement it after we get the letter so they don't have to come back. I mean, there are 3 folks here, and you know, this does make sense. I think it enhances the property. It meets all the setback requirements. It really should not be controversial. So if the board will indulge me in a very awkward oral resolution, I will submit a proper written one as soon as we get the letter and can work off that. Okay? Is that all right with you, Art?
Let's hear from everybody. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, for Justin.
Yes, Justin? Yeah, okay. Paul?
You get so
Gary?
many indulgences, Jack.
I'm sorry?
You get only so many indulgences.
That's true. So I'll use up one.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, I guess. So we're gonna, okay. Yeah, I guess so. Yep.
All right, so whereas applicant
I'm
BBH,
okay, Jack, with it.
thank you. Applicant BBH White LLC seeks permission to add to an existing structure by adding a bathroom, bar, sink, and other renovations on its property at 176 Schoolhouse Road in the town of Clinton. The property is 143.19 acres, and the parcel in which the barn is located is 123.1 acres. It's in a zoned AR5. The structure will be used for multiple purposes, including as a pool house, as a home office, which will not involve meeting with clients, I hope. And is that all right?
100%.
Okay.
Good.
And will not be used as an accessory dwelling unit. Applicant states that it also wishes to tear down an adjacent greenhouse as part of this project. No request for a demolition permit pursuant to section 250-93 has been received as yet, and that would be, and such a submission would be required and would have to be approved by the planning board. The planning board has received a copy of the conditional notification of approval by the Justice Department of Behavioral and Community Health dated April 27th for the proposed well and sewage system. Accordingly, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby approves the site plan and grants permission for the project conditioned upon submitting a statement describing the use of the proposed building, obtaining a payment of all appropriate fees, and obtaining demolition approval for any demolition that will be done on the property past, in progress or proposed. I think that is it.
Jerry, second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Jerry,
Justin,
aye.
aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Art? Aye. So moved.
If anybody can tell me what section of the code I should hang this under, I would be very grateful.
Me too.
I think it makes sense, but it doesn't fit into one of our little pigeonholes, and I will look further, but I would
There was-
appreciate any thoughts.
Made new law.
Jack,
There is something here that's customary accessory uses or structures associated with the permitted use and located on the same lot is a permitted accessory use. So maybe it falls under that vague umbrella, perhaps.
Jack, there was a determination going back with Finel, doing, having the pool house and the pool as one structure. And then there was an interpretation with the zoning board of appeals going back. Halton challenged it that because the structure cannot have water, and they allowed that the pool house is the only structure that could have water.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll call it a pool house then. Good.
Thank you very much. Very helpful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. Good evening.
Good luck.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Dean, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Look at that handsome face, I'm telling you.
Beautiful.
You have any words of wisdom for us?
No, other than just a concern with that last applicant. I mean, just because they may not have intention, I mean, what happens if they sell that property? I mean, so you don't really look at the applicant, you look at the property and its potential use.
Yeah.
I can make it clear in the written resolution that it will be, that we're giving permission for that use only and not for use as an office within the meaning of the home occupation section or as an accessory dwelling. It's not going to have plumbing.
Well, one of the proposals on the
But it's not
new-
going to have, you know, a kitchen or anything else in it.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Dean.
One of the proposals of the new laws that we're hopefully eventually get back on track going would be to allow this, because I think people should be allowed to use their accessory structures, you know, for those purposes, whether it be an in-home business or what have you. But, you know, presently the way it stands, I mean, you know, those things have always been restricted because of the fear of someone putting an illegal apartment.
Actually, the rationale from the zoning board of appeals about the rationale for having it to become an apartment.
But
or in this particular case, a party venue, which we have all the complaints all over town for.
well, if it's a party venue, then either it's not permitted under the current zoning, or we're going to have some new zoning on it. And I think that is a gap that absolutely has to be filled. I don't think that it works as a party structure. It's too damn small. It's, you know, but I think your point's well taken, Dean, and I will put a condition in the written resolution that it's to be used only for the purposes set out in whatever letter they're giving us. It says pool house, family use, home office, all of which should be okay and should not be disruptive to the neighborhood.
Yeah, the only other concern and things that I've seen in the past where someone had a current violation, they weren't allowed to proceed until the violation was cured. And if he doesn't have a demolition permit, technically he has a violation.
Well, I'm hopeful he will give us that we'll get a demolition permit that will cover this. It's not clear to me, as he explained it, that they're actually demolishing anything. What the workman told me, and what I thought I heard from the architect, is they've preserved all the wood from the old barn. And what they're doing is reconstructing that barn. So it's not like they're demolishing the barn and building an entirely new structure.
I guess it's all a matter of interpretation what demolish means.
What?
I mean, it sounded like he had a building permit to do what he did, so he's probably fine.
He had the building inspector
To me,
there.
if you take it down, you demolished it. Doesn't matter if you're recreating it or rebuilding it. It's
Well, I'm
still
not
a
sure.
demolition.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Demolishing to me means
Gone.
taking it down, it's gone. And, taking it apart and putting it back together again is not quite the same as to me at least, as demolishing it.
Well, I mean, there was that big to-do on Schoolhouse where the people took down that 200-year-old structure and they preserved all the wood to reuse it, but they took down the structure, and that was the big to-do.
But they didn't use that wood to rebuild that structure.
No, they built another structure.
Yeah.
So
They demolished the barn. These guys, we're into semantics, but I think there's a difference between taking something down and taking it apart and reassembling it.
Well, the previous building inspector has a different thoughts about it. He thinks that he calls it a partial demolition. So if somebody is just partially demolishing it and using like some parts of the structure, he doesn't call it like totally demolition. So he doesn't send it to the planning board.
Demolition in the code is the discontinuation of a particular use and use of the property in a different manner, right? So it's not just the wood still there, right? But what's in its place and how is the use changing or staying the same?
But there is also a demolition term on the building code. So you got to.
He is discontinuing the current barn use. So.
I'm just saying it's in that's the word. I don't know what the answer is, but the words are there.
Where'd you read that? I read any dismantling, intentional destruction or removal of buildings.
Well, as I said, I was surprised when I saw it was gone yesterday. I admit that. But so what?
So all I'm saying is that, we really should keep an eye out to not its present intent, but its potential and, use. And I don't know. My thought would have been maybe to delay the 2 weeks to think about all this. Not to say that he's not enhancing it, not to say that, the result would have been the same.
I think, so Dean, in retrospect, I agree with you. I think we're confusing sometimes the merits of an application with, the necessary procedural steps you have to take. In other words, we have something that we like, but
I admit, philosophically, I'm on the
people, and
philosophically, I am generally not a big fan of adjourning and prolonging things if we can avoid it. So that's just a personal tick. I'm not. Again, it's just personal. I'm not too troubled by this one. He's got to come to us for a demolition permit on the
greenhouse.
On the greenhouse anyway. That one's clear because that he just proposes to take down. Do we need to go back and tell him we want a demolition permit on this structure also? I don't have a problem with doing that. But we voted.
I think the leap, for me, the leap, which I agreed to, the big leap we took was to say that this can just be a pool house and that we're done, because it's it's somewhat close to a pool, but yeah. They conceded its use is really not a pool house. It's an office which is going to be used throughout the winter. And so I hope somebody else doesn't come along and say, well, I'm building a pool house. It's 100 feet from my pool. And, that would be my concern.
Well, I mean, I'm only thinking of the other applicant, which I've been getting phone calls on, and I just won't mention names, where they wanted to put a bathroom in their studio that they're using for dance or what have you. And, the board, refused it. So, when you start looking at, well, you're doing it for this one, but you didn't do it for that one, it's kind of a question.
But talking about that, Dean, we had to put a stop work order on that thing, and she was mentioning you. She said that because of the plan to adopt that regulation to allow water in the structure, they put a plumbing in on the building, and the neighbors routed her out, and the neighbors are fuming about it. Like, why are we allowing this when there was a determination from the ZBA that dance studio is not allowed to have a septic?
Put the word
That,
studio.
that to me is very different. There's no logical reason this couldn't have had plumbing in it. If they wanted it to be an accessory dwelling unit and put in a bedroom or a kitchen or whatever, and they chopped 50 feet off it or they got a variance, I have no doubt we would have approved it. There's no action by the ZBA saying you can't do it. It's not being used for ordinary commercial purposes like a dance studio. I think that's very different. I mean, this is basically a home office. We don't have with a pool thing. We don't have a category for home.
Well, currently we don't.
I
allow
think it's a
home office
mistake
in
to
accessory
treat it
structures.
as an accessory dwelling unit. That's all.
But
And-
currently,
Except that everybody
we don't
else.
allow for accessory home office structures.
Well, that's not clear to me. We don't allow for home occupation, but somebody who wants to use a building for just an office where you don't meet with clients, you don't deal with the public, you don't carry on a profession. I don't think there's anything that prohibits that. There's also nothing that authorizes it, but there's nothing that prohibits it.
Well, the way we interpret our current code is if it doesn't allow it, it's not allowed.
That's true. That's true.
Out of the code, it's not permitted.
Well, then that's why I asked the question I did at the end about, a rubric to hang it under. And I heard a suggestion about customary use or calling it a pool house, both of which make sense to me.
And I think we're getting hung up on the home office, right? Because like I'm in this room above my garage, which is now my home office because I'm not going to the office. If I sat at my dining room table, my dining room would be my home office because that's where I'm sitting and working. And that's what he's doing, right? He's sitting somewhere and working.
The only, to be fair, the complication with that is the section on home occupations says you can't do it in a separate building. It has to be in the house.
Right.
There'd be no question if he wanted to take a bedroom and call it his home office.
You can do that all day long.
But because his mistake was calling it a home office in the first place.
Right, the naming,
If he
yeah.
called it a pool house, we wouldn't have had this problem.
And you could have the home office in the other building provided there's no water. You could have a barn and make it a home office provided there is no septic.
And you could have a home office if you're not using it for a home occupation in a
Right,
separate building.
but there's
There's nothing that says you can't use that.
But
You have a barn, you don't have to keep horses in it.
we know what this guy does. We know it's not a home occupation. It's
Right.
yeah. Anyway, I kind of feel like, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, you've done it already. I was just kind of throwing it out there.
No, it kept me up half the night too, because I thought an interesting, it's clearly something that we had a rubric we'd approve. It's not it doesn't deteriorate the neighborhood in any way. It's not, and so I'm at the end of the day quite comfortable with it. But I agree, as I said at the outset, that there are procedural steps that we have to jump through. And I think by not calling it a home office, we avoid some of those problems.
Jack, when you write up this resolution, detail the do's and the don'ts. So we have a clear picture. When they get it, they know they can't rent it out for parties and,
right.
So on and so forth. So we've got something to stand on here.
Good. I will have a whole bunch of conditions.
Okay, that's great. Okay,
And I think
Jack, you
that's
could,
entirely fair.
moving on, folks. Anything else, Dean?
No, everything else is quiet.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to tell you, if you guys want to go back to the in-person meeting, we are not allowed upstairs, but we could do it on the main town hall, but we're gonna have to maintain the 6 feet distance.
Yeah,
So,
there's X's on the floor.
Yes.
We've had executive meetings in person, so.
so we could do over there. If you're tired of Zoom, we could continue Zoom, whatever you want.
Okay, how does everybody feel about that?
I like meeting in person if we could do it.
I thought you were gonna say, I like being at home now.
Yeah.
How about
I'm
you
happy to
guys?
do whatever anybody else wants.
We're
I
gonna
would
need
do-
the temperature check.
I thought Love had some concerns about meeting in person. I thought she was very
Yeah,
sensitive.
I would like to do one more Zoom and then, tee up for maybe coming back in person in August.
Fine with me.
Maybe if we, yeah, why don't we do that? Like if we have like a simple agenda, like not too many, we could do a Zoom,
Okay, how about you, Jerry?
I'm fine either way.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, I would wait. I'd wait one more cycle. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's what we'll do. And at the next meeting, we will make a decision whether to do the August meeting or meetings in person. Myself, I'd rather have the meetings in person, but we do have to understand safety issues, so. Okay, anything else from anybody? Okay, Jerry, it's your chance now.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Justin second.
Second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.